Hi, everyone. This is Olga. As you know, I've been on this journey to explore how we, meaning we lawyers and we, general public, have a better relationship with law, how we understand it better, how it serves us better, and how it really provides the value that it's supposed to provide to us and to our customers. I've been looking for innovative lawyers and legal practitioners worldwide to really find the best practices that legal professionals can implement in their practices. And I found Anna. She's doing something really amazing, and I've seen examples of her work. And she's going to show some examples today. Anna, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Olga. Nice to see you here. My name is Posthumus Meyjes. I'm from the Netherlands. I live in Amsterdam, and I'm a legal designer. I'm the founder of Aclara Legal Design, and I'm a lawyer and an information designer. So combined, that makes me a legal designer.
I love it. I love the explanation. I'm definitely going to explore, what it means to be a legal designer. And the information design. Those are kind of terms of art. They are increasingly used. So I do want to get on the same page. But before we get there, I actually want to learn more about you. Before you got to sort of legal design, have you practiced law? What was your path to being here today talking about legal design?
Well, I practiced law for 10 years. So I worked at several law firms in the Netherlands, and I specialized in insurance and liability, mainly in financial law. I worked at large law firms, always in litigation. So always worked as a litigator. Counting backwards, I think around 2012, I started making very simple visualizations in my legal work, mainly because I was dealing with complex structures, large cases with so many different facts and parties that were involved. So I needed some kind of overview. I started making them visually. And I think a lot of lawyers do that when they have a whiteboard in their office and they go and sketch something out. Once you figure the whole issue, your case out, and you have it on your whiteboard, then people go back to their computers and they type everything in text. And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. That sounds like a waste of effort. And then you have something in text and you send it to someone, and that person has to do the same exercise in trying to understand what this is about. So I thought, why not use these visuals that I make? So at first I started sharing them with my colleagues. And after a while, I started sharing them with my clients. And like the last couple of years, when I still practice law, it was just a regular part of my communication with my clients, but also to courts. So in any case I made visualizations and shared them with the court as part of my court submissions. I think that combined to me thinking about what my role was as a lawyer in litigation, I often had, I've always been interested in innovation, and innovation can be so many things. But I'm always the person who's like, why do we do this? Can we do this better? And the answer, we've always done it this way. I think that's never the right answer. So that's always been my position in the team, I guess. At some point, I was like, I'm not always sure whether the role I have as a lawyer in litigation, whether I'm part of my client's problem or of their client or of their solution. So. Everything combined, at some point I decided, okay, making these visualizations and focusing on improved communication of legal information, that's something that I think a lot of people would benefit from. I thought, I think I'd better start my own business. And I heard this term legal design. I was like, that sounds like something that I'm doing already. And my business plan was like, I think legal design is a good idea. Let's start a business. So that's basically it.
I love it. So as you were sharing sort of visuals internally, realizing that translating visuals to words to images makes probably no sense sometimes. Sometimes you should just go with images. And you were sharing those images internally at work with your clients and with, courts. What reaction did you see? Was it encouraging or
sometimes?
Sometimes. Give me a few examples.
Well, I think I've had, it really ranges from very positive to very negative. Of course, I think with anything you do in any job that's new to the people you work with, I think there's always going to be people that are more are innovative and they welcome new ideas, and there are always going to be people who are very conservative and never like change. And there's a group in the middle. I think and the group in the middle you can influence.
There's hope for the people in the middle. Good.
Yes, definitely. Well, I've had very complicated financial products that were involved in litigation, and I made some visualizations, and the partner who I worked with, as in the team where this was a big case, we usually worked in teams. I was so I explained the whole functionalities of the financial product in a visualization, and I got the feedback, no, this is too clear. It's we can't. We don't want to use this.
Let's pause for a second. Clarity is not always the goal. Yeah, we know that. Sometimes you write documents intentionally to be ambiguous. I know all about that.
Yeah, of course. So, and then I was I think it is also our job to be transparent to some point, but it's, of course, you're acting on behalf of your client and you're biased. But so I've had those situations. I've also had situations where partners that I work with were why are you spending billable hours to make these illustration, whatever things, and we can't charge our clients for this? So I've had those responses too, of course. And with this partner, I said, our client is involved in class actions in 10 jurisdictions. They are really struggling to keep up to date and to know what's going on. So infographics that I made showing per jurisdiction what was happening and what were most important things. Also as a live document to keep updating. I said, I think this is what our client wants from us. They want to feel in charge, even though there's so much going on. In the end, I was able to convince him that my time spent on making these visualizations were worth it and could be charged to the client. And of course, when I shared the infographics with the client, they were really happy to have them. So that really helped.
I love it. I want to talk a little bit about the process. What is your process? And you kind of alluded to it, that you need to sort of start with simplification of actual wording, chisel some things away. But maybe if you have to reduce it to 3-5 steps that folks can wrap their mind around and maybe then be on their own design journey or collaborate with designers like yourself. What is the sort of 3-5 steps to the better privacy policy that is actually inviting and serving you? And meets your needs?
Well, let's assume that you already have some kind of privacy policy. So you have something in writing to start with. Like with some projects that I have, we start from scratch, developing the whole document or design. But let's assume that you have something in writing, something very plain and traditional. I think for a lot of my clients, the first important thing is, and that requires constant attention, to the empathy part of in design. So first, who are you making this for? Your privacy statement is not about you. It's about the user. Of course, you have to have a privacy statement by law. but it's information that should be accessible to the user. So I think in a lot of my design projects, the first couple of steps are talking to my client and asking them, who is this for? Who is this for? Who is this for? And like really digging deep into it, because at first usually the answer is very very general. It's like, oh, business, all our business divisions. I was like, no, let's dig into that. So depending on the type of project, we often make personas that really forces my client to really think about. For people that have never done this before, making a persona is shortly speaking, sort of generalized person that stands for part of your target audience. You can have 10 personas, like maybe a man and a woman and age groups, and can, like, with different qualifications. And making personas is useful, but I think the most important thing is that my clients, which are usually lawyers, understand that you can never jump to redesigning anything if you don't have a very clear vision of who you're doing this for. So this is basically the first part. And it also usually includes doing interviews with people that we recognize as being the users, to ask them what they want, what they need. So this is more the initial research phase. The second phase is more the design phase. So we start working on text. Sometimes I give tips on how to make the wording better, and my clients are very eager to start crossing 50% out. Sometimes it's more difficult, and I do a lot of text editing, and goes back and forth. This can feel sometimes to my clients as the messy bit, because we go back and forth on the text, but also I'm already making sketches and thinking about what visualizations work. So this can feel a bit messy, but I try to do this a lot in co-creation sessions. So we use Mural, for example, so this online whiteboarding platform, and to just so people can add their ideas, add their suggestions, and I can work with some basic visuals, move them around, and get some, like sometimes it's even, for my clients, it's unclear, like, is it 3 main things we want to communicate or 4, for example? So working together in a co-creation session is very helpful.
Those are great steps. What I really like to highlight is the process of clarifying what you're actually saying. It forces you to look at your privacy policy from a different angle. And I love how you highlighted, am I making 3 points or 4? Or is it really 5? Or is it really none? I think that's an important kind of thing to go through. And when you're redesigning document, it kind of forces you to go through that. I also like the term you use, co-creation. Oh, that's a wonderful, wonderful phrase. And as a legal practitioner myself, especially when I practice more actively, I think many of us, especially of us who succeed in this field, do it intuitively. There's dialogue with a client about what do they want, where they're going, what their needs are, what their goals are. And you sort of, it's not like they come to you to recite law. I mean, they can Google it better than anyone, really. It's the process of synthesizing facts and laws and coming up with something unique and different, tailored to them. That's what we do. That's what I did as a tech general counsel, startup professional, as a tech lawyer, in many industries that just came around. So this co-creation, I think we should really be more conscious in allowing ourselves that, yes, we're a source of some knowledge. And yes, our clients are a source of a lot of insights as well. And it's this very vibrant and fertile collaboration that will ultimately address their needs and will make it satisfying as a lawyer to give them legal advice. So I whether you end up actually kind of designing yourself, but I really love that in the context of collaboration, this co-creation concept.
Yeah.
But there's a few more steps that I think you wanted to mention, and I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh yeah.
I would love for you to finish that.
Yeah. Well, so the design of phase is really a co-creation phase, and of course that leads to, at some point, determining what the text should be, more or less, and also what the design should be, and we make a lot of iterations, and as quickly as we can get to some kind of first design that is it's definitely not done, but it looks good enough to at least get good feedback, and that's where we involve all stakeholders if they weren't involved in every step yet, and with a lot of the end users, as many as we can, to get their feedback, and then have another 2 or 3 or 4 rounds of iterations. So that's more the feedback and iterating.
Do you feel that when you sort of co-create with your clients, when you are in Mura or in any other tool, or actually just kind of whiteboarding, or just like, shooting ideas, brainstorming, or just involving them in this like generation of legal advice, whatever that means, do you think they love it in your experience?
Well, to be honest, I think as I mentioned before, I think in any group of people, so you have a couple of people that are open to innovation, you have the conservative persons you probably never really convince, and you have like the middle group. I think the most people that I work with, because because I have my own business, I'm an external party, so people contact me to work with me to do a legal design project. So the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis are usually the innovators that are already hooked on the concept of doing things differently. So in my experience, it usually works really well, this concept of co-creation. And with some clients, it takes a bit more time for them to be comfortable to work, even like on a different platform, and work with some visuals. I've also needed some time at first to get more comfortable with sharing ugly designs, like early stage designs, and not work on it too much before.
There's no such a thing as an ugly design. There's a work in progress design, and ugly is subjective.
Yeah.
It's actually really funny. I think visuals help, and I love visuals, and I'm a highly visual person who's also very trained in visual arts. However, I don't think the privacy policy is about visuals. If it has drawings or pictures, there are functional drawings and pictures. They should be judged on the functionality first.
Absolutely. But this is the privacy policy doesn't even include a lot of visuals. It's mostly about layout and color and a couple of icons. So it's not very visual. But some design
layouts are important.
That's important. But if I make something for a client that does include a lot more visuals, that's a process of refinement, and then you end up with that result. But like 10 stages earlier, it's probably going to be messy. And sometimes I use some placeholder images for things. So, but I've gotten comfortable with working on this together as much as we can. Also, as you mentioned before, I think, for me, on a personal level, my role now as a designer is very different to my role as a lawyer, in the sense that, I don't know if you can relate to this, but as a lawyer, I often felt the pressure to know things, because your client is dependent on you to know things and to do things, and there's always so much to know about the law, about the facts of the matter.
In my case, it was a little different. I ran away with a circus called Startups pretty early in my career. And the thing is, we were doing things that were not done before, like in every department, from, tech to, finance to, why law should be any different from, so I had no clue. So I've been fortunate to work with people who sort of trust me that I can figure it out. And I think I built my career on the concept of figuring things out.
Yeah.
It's because I think I've been blessed with working with people who are innovators and value. And I think that's precisely why, I was hired, is because I was like, I have no idea, but I am sure I can figure it out. I've gotten so far in life and, despite the various adversities. So I think that's the reason. But I think to your point, your audience may be a little different sometimes. And sometimes, you are a walking, Black law dictionary to some extent.
And also I sometimes I could get quite stressed about not knowing what you don't know, and in your role as a lawyer that can be uncomfortable, where I think if I look at my me and like my personal life and who I am, I'm a creative person. I used to call myself a maker. I'm a maker. I make things. I have ideas and I want to make things, and like in artistic way or a craft kind of way. And actually, my role now, I get to be more curious, because being curious is like, I don't know everything. I don't have to know everything. Let's investigate. Let's find out. And that is, of course, where also the empathy comes in, and where you do research is like, I don't have to know everything. I'm not going to assume I know everything. And it's actually a really good thing that we're going to explore this. And sometimes I even ask my clients, so what is a contract? Or what is litigation? And they look at me blankly, because they do know that I know what it is. But I was like, what is it? What is it for? Who is it for? Let's start with that. And I think to me, that's fascinating. And I think it really triggers people to think differently. And I know you're very familiar with design thinking. There are so many things I can say about legal design, that how it can help, and etc. But one thing I think is also very important to stress, that I see a lot of my clients actually being surprised, like, oh, we can do this in a different way. It's sort of, I see my clients like almost literally they look relieved. It's like, oh, we can do this. Oh, this is so much more like easy to work with, or I don't have to flip through all these pages anymore, or I like being able to reduce the amount of questions that we get from, based on our advice. So I think it does make lawyers happier in what they do, and that's not, I can't guarantee.
Hey, you cannot. There is, being a happy lawyer is a thing. I'm telling you, it really makes a huge difference. How do you encourage your clients to co-create with you?
Well, I found that it really depends on the project. It really depends on what people are involved, like the characters of the people, but also what kind of stakeholders are involved, how high or low profile the project is. And still a lot of my clients are taking their first steps into legal design. So we determine what project is that is not so high profile that we need like lots of layers of management involved, because then you can get anything done. My process depends on each client and each process. But I think it still comes down to what I said before, that the people who hire me already have taken their first step into doing things.
It's a self-selected group of folks.
Yes.
That is already there.
And it's usually in the initial brief, like we want to make this shorter, or we want to reduce the amount of time that this business division asks from our legal department, or we have these compliance policies that no one reads. So their objective is already in the brief.
Yeah, so their objective is one there, and two, they probably know how to measure it, right? If you want to reduce time, there is a pretty clear path to, hey, it took 10 hours, now it will take 2 minutes. And there's sort of milestones built in. And, there's some comment that, look, your clients really need a knowledgeable lawyer. Absolutely. Your clients absolutely needs a knowledgeable lawyer. That's table stakes. I completely agree with you, genuinely. And then, you can use them so much more, right? Giving a competent advice doesn't have to stop at the information giving. The giving competent advice could, how do we implement it? How do and that's what in-house lawyers often do. We take the law and we even determine the right advice. But then there is this sort of the execution part, right? How do you actually make it a living, breathing thing in your company? And how you drive kind of the results, including the bottom line results. And that's where the design process could actually make sure that the competent advice you're providing to your customers that you work so hard actually has a significant impact. We're coming to the end. I want to make sure that we'll give opportunities to folks to have next steps. And I also want to ask a question around enforceability. So this is wonderful. This is maybe easy to use and functional, and maybe even drives results for your bottom line of your business. But what do you think if this is challenged? What do you think if you have a breach and then you have to deal, with GDPR issues? Because those are functional documents. They need to be probably easy to read and transparent and relatable and inviting, wonderful things. But first and foremost, they're shields. They have a function of being a shield in a battlefield. You're a former litigator, I'm a former litigator. Privacy policy is your first defense. So will it stand in court?
No, I think the first function is to inform the users how you use their personal information. I think that's the first use. As a business owner, yes, it can also be a shield. Well, for my business, I just want to be transparent. Will it hold up in court? I think so. I mean, this is designed together with a lawyer with their expertise. And of course, I have my background in law, but the specific privacy expertise. I think it will hold up in court because at the end of the day, it's like the privacy statement should say how you're using the data, what data you're using, and under which conditions. I think this privacy statement says that. And I'm like, I just want it to be accessible. So I don't think, so my main objective is not for it to be a shield. And I feel comfortable and confident enough as a business owner to have this as my privacy statement. And most importantly, well, also for me, I think if you're a multinational, you have different interests as well. Well, it's like, I think I've shown to be as transparent as I can about the personal data that I'm using. So if in case of any conflict, I really hope not to have to litigate. I've done it for way too long.
I mean, the way, the reality is handshake agreements actually stand up in court. This is better than a handshake agreement anytime. So I am with you that, this will stand in court. The question is, may there be ambiguities because there may be pictures or fewer words, but more words doesn't make it any less ambiguous. We know that much. There's numerous decisions of interpreting all kinds of documents where, you can read it 500 different ways, and hence why there's a dispute. So this question comes up all the time. I feel very comfortable as a lawyer saying, hell yes. Yeah. And I'm happy to be your lawyer defending this thing in court. Yeah. To the extent you allow me to represent you. I'm pretty comfortable with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel the same. In fact, I feel confident enough having this. And it doesn't need any more words.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. And I like it that you corrected me that the first function of the privacy policy is to be useful to your customer. It's an agreement, right? Both parties need to get something out of the bargain. I think there is definitely, your customers are important and you drive traffic, but also I think you as a lawyer, you're there to also protect your client, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's what you get in the bargain as a service provider. So both are, I think, equally important, and I think you can get to that result. And possibly, if you're a sophisticated party like Anna, you're a great designer, Stefani is a great designer, and Tessa are great designers. With the help of a competent designer and with an amazing lawyer like Jeneline, I think you can get to an amazing place. Both parties get what they value, which is one is protection, the other one is clarity.
But also, I think it's never good enough to stay in your comfort zone just because it's comfortable. It's like when you think this time or new legislation or the way you want to present yourself as a business, so whatever the driver is, to look at how can we do this best. And I think an accessible, engaging document is better than traditional.
Hands down. Absolutely. We can have this conversation all day. Thank you so much, Anna. This has been so wonderful. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.